Okay.
Welcome to the Make Love Easy podcast. I'm honored, privileged, and pleasured. Well, that's a specific word that I might not have used, but honored and privileged for sure to welcome Stef Hammett, whose last name I'm pronouncing for the first time.
And correctly.
Thank God.
It's a pleasure to be here,
Of
Louis.
Have More Space, also known as Have More Sex. There are multiple brands out there.
It is one business, HMS. It's an acronym. Have more safety, have more sex, have more space.
Wow. Okay. The ambiguity really tripped me up and tripped me out in a fun way. Mm-hmm. You're just saying how deep my book is. I kind of want to go lighter and slower.
I like light and slow.
Yeah, that's
a good place to start.
That's good. How do you get over being in interviews and having everything not turn into an innuendo or subtext? Or is that a personal problem of mine?
No, I think it could be part of the reason why I started the business, right? It's just
fun?
Sex is everywhere. And if we can just make the innuendos more enjoyable for everyone, then we'd feel like we're in a safer space and we can just openly talk about sex a lot more. At least where I'm going to take that one.
This is the most stumped and stupefied I've ever been in an interview. What is consent?
Great. Is that a good thing? Because you're so philosophical and deep
fun.
and have written many books.
I'm disarmed.
Okay.
I'm at a disadvantage.
Disarmed.
What? Is that a new word?
It's just I don't hear that word often. I like it.
I hope this ends up being usable. Quickly, let's add some value bombs so that the listeners... I tend not to edit these things.
Okay, so this is raw to live.
Yeah.
Just my style. Okay, so you asked what is consent. Consent,
Yeah.
if we look back in history in the words, it actually means consentire, and it means
Latin.
to feel together.
To feel with.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and so...
I thought your answer was going to be so complicated, but that's so simple. Sorry.
Well, if we go the criminal code route, it gets complicated, especially since it's non-existent. But yeah, it's not that complicated, which is why it's a great business. Yeah.
All you have to do is hand out marketing materials and T-shirts.
And when you say marketing materials, it's condoms. I stickered those this morning with our brand, and you can scan the code on the back to get access to our consent code book, to follow our Instagram that is Have More Sex, and to go to our website, which is
so
up
great.
and live, but we're going to continue to improve it to reflect our entire business model.
I'll try to hold back my entrepreneurial questions.
Oh, okay.
For the near, middle, and to the end.
Okay.
So how is consent a problem in the modern world?
I think consent is a problem on two levels. Would you like me to go?
Please. Both.
Both?
Swing both ways.
Okay. Pick a hand. Okay, one. We'll go the simple way. First, it's a problem just due to communication alone, right? We don't have predators in this realm. We don't have serious violations of human bodily autonomy going on in this realm. We do have violations. We do have assault. We do have a lot of uncomfortableness. But in this area, it's a lot of miscommunication. People don't know how to ask questions. They don't know how to make a change whenever the situation has gone from we agree to what the fuck's going on. And to be able to have those conversations and knowing that, making it really clear that if a woman's asleep, if a woman's passed out, and all of those things, it's not a time for exploring. And a lot of that goes down to communication, right? These aren't the kind of people that are trying to be serial predators in a rape situation. They're not grooming people. They're just being a little bit misguided and not communicating well in an area that has a lot of tension.
So you're assuming good, fundamentally, intentionally good actors.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just trying to figure out how to have sex, and they're just doing it in a really bad way. And sometimes that's because we have really bad examples. We have bad examples in the media. We have bad examples from current generations of adults that have this huge problem everywhere.
John Hamm and Mad Men.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually encouraging younger generations to have less sex, which is not where we want to go if we're going to be a desirable, thriving society.
So there are a lot of monkey wrenches with this. My biggest one is a lot of people, and you can read this in people like Neil Strauss. Are you familiar at all?
I know the name, but I don't know the work.
He used to work for Rolling Stone, decided he hadn't had enough sex, and studied under the top social dynamics gurus on the planet. What popped out was a book called The Game, Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists, where the best reading is that he leveraged the training as training wheels to gain confidence in himself and to start trusting in his ability to be attractive. So a lot of young men, myself included back in the day, read this book, coming from a socially awkward, anxious, introverted, had not had sex when I read it, was like 17 years old, and thought, okay, well, let me, I promise I'm going somewhere, because it feels like an incomplete thread.
I'm following you.
He was like, let me now let me have fun. I now have the right and the means and the capacity to do this. But then his next book, The Truth, an uncomfortable book about relationships, we find him cheating on his girlfriend, who he wants to make his wife, going into sex addiction therapy, spending a year and a half exploring both polyamory and also like deep self-healing work, realizing and here's the kicker, his perceived personal sexual needs and desires were the tip of an iceberg made up of an extraordinarily rich, convoluted and complicated realm of subconscious pain, trauma, issues, challenges. So one of my mentors argues, he's like, well, most people's perceived sexual and romantic needs are contaminated by and the result of, and actually camouflage, emotional and spiritual needs that they don't realize and haven't taken responsibility for yet. Now, I love sexual positivity, and I'm all for better communication, but how do we account for the problem that some people may be choosing things out of needs and desires that they're not even aware of, that they may not even themselves be consenting to inside of them? Mm-hmm. So then you find out later, if, for example, you get engaged to such a person who had easy, quick, casual sex, but was really seeking emotional nutrition subconsciously, not maliciously, but through the physical connection, and then that person is not able to sustain or meaningfully be available for the level of commitment that's invested in them, and then pulls out, well, then where I go back is to square one as a dating relationship coach. I'm like, okay, how do I discern who is actually meaningfully consenting with their whole person, their emotional, spiritual, physical being, not just their genitalia, to an engagement responsibly and respectfully, knowing that because of the oxytocin release in sexual pleasure and connection, that an emotional connection could be fostered despite their intention, despite their conscious commitment to casuality. Mm-hmm. So that's I don't know what you would have to say to all of that, but
I hear a lot of Carl Jung. If you don't make the subconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate.
Go high five. All right.
I might have butchered the quote, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think that can, some people don't want or need spiritual evolution, and that can be fine. And but it would be really easy to get your satisfaction via sex without actually working on anything underneath, and then letting sex start to be the energy engine that you rely into. Mm-hmm. And especially for a masculine type. I think there's a physical body of men and female, but then there's an energetic masculine and feminine. And that masculine side is really just driving it. If you're not going to understand what's driving it, then you're going to drive it places that may not be the best for you or the people that you're engaging with.
Yeah.
It's one thought. There's lots of thoughts. I feel like that's a really great artist for me to research now. That's a big evolution. I feel. How is the concept met in a relationship coach whenever you're trying to disseminate between just the consensuality on a sex level, which is where we're really focused, and consensuality of actually emotional connection?
Yeah, it's really subtle because, thank you. Tables have turned. This is fun. This is a blast. So
You can always tell me to stop asking you questions.
no. Your pointed questions are welcome. That's part of what I appreciate about you. See, I skipped a syllable. Appreciate. So the idea of consent is against the background of agreements and a container that's set intentionally through upfront, detailed, respectful, like sometimes over communication initially. So if I'm really committed to someone or a relationship with them, I will ask them, hey, are you willing to have a conversation to make this connection even better? And then they'll usually say yes. And then I'll say, okay, so assuming we have an intention to like honor our word, we say something, we tend to be there. Like you say you're going to show up at a certain time, like, okay, probably you really intend to be there.
Yeah.
So from that foundation of word being trustworthy, we can create agreements. Like I agree to practice, like I'm practicing a qigong posture, a yoga pose, not judging, not being an asshole. I can practice being kind. I can practice being in communication around things as appropriate if something comes up for me. If I get triggered, hijacked, dysregulated, and I'm not home emotionally because my amygdala is firing and I'm in a fight or flight response where I confused how you said a word to me for how mother rejected me because dad beat the shit out of her or something. Like, okay, so this overlays and pre-frames really the possibility of a meaningful consent. Like, hey, I'm not feeling that right now. It's on you to say something. It's on me to be observant as possible. One of the agreements in relationship or contexts I invite people to bring is 100% responsibility on both sides. So I'm responsible for the misunderstandings I engender, and the other person is it's their responsibility as much as mine to clarify, to ask questions, to seek, knock, look for answers. Now, the tricky part is when to deploy this architecture, this infrastructure, right? So we can swing over to the sexual conversation. Like, sexual energy and desire and attraction are nonverbal. They happen before and without the conscious mind being involved. The male brain has a part of the visual cortex that registers hot or not within 500 milliseconds.
500 milliseconds?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Brilliant.
we needed this, according to evolutionary biology, to be able to discern. That's from a book called The Male Brain by Luann Brizendine. Great book. She had a series. The Male Brain, on the cover, it is a wadded up, like, piece of duct tape. And then on the female brain cover, it is, you remember those old school phones with the curly? Yeah, so it's that, except it's a massive curly. There's just beautiful covers. So the point is, if it's nonverbal, then we can't really demand to make it verbal without, well, I don't know, potentially killing the magic. Which means that I, as a man, it becomes my job to read even subtler. For example, Dr. Timothy Perper studied, it's called undercover sex signals. He sat in singles bars for 8,000 hours. And was like, who went home with who? And, you know, what happened before that? So women subconsciously would send signals, body language signals, baring their neck, their, you know, the weather vane palm, the hair. Playing with the hair flip, the shy geisha looks away, looks back up. Like, and so if a man educates himself in these things and reads them correctly, then ideally he will know, and sure, he could still ask, but he's not popping the bubble of the sexual energy building between the two people by awkwardly and clunkily saying, do you meaningfully consent to oral, anal, and whatever versions of sex? Like, it could land or come off as very robotic. I imagine you probably train people or educate them in having it be playful or having it be natural or having it be elegant. But with my people, it's more like, well, get good at reading her. Read her, and her body will tell you. Her energy will tell you. Your intuition will tell you. So it's a whole conversation. Now, I mean, the philosopher, I love dancing with all the subtleties of medical informed consent and why is that important and how does that work and how does that translate to sexuality? How does that translate to marketing and sales? And what I saw with marketing and sales was really like disturbing to me. I was like, holy shit, consent is being stolen and taken at every step. I mean, this I hope, Have More Space is a prelude to confrontation of this kind of theme on multiple levels, but I've said a lot.
Oh, brilliantly. You're such a philosopher, and understanding those subtleties is not something we would expect of all men, or on a commonality. We wouldn't be teaching that that's what's needed in order to have sex. If you want to learn women, yes, that's exactly the path you should take. So I love that you're doing that deeper work. But since we're up here at the surface, I'm
God, okay, yeah, we can go back there if you want. That's great.
Well, we'll go up and down on it, right? Because because that sounds hot.
It does.
And what was on the other hand is the 3 fingers. It's 1 versus 3.
Okay.
The 3 fingers is the serial predator, and I'll tell you, the serial rapist predators are very good at grooming.
Such a tonal shift.
Yeah.
I'm getting some tonal whiplash here, but please, let's go.
Well, so that they do have a skill at that, right? So there are men that are able to learn this, and I'm not suggesting that women are all victims. Yeah. Because
the moment we recommend something, it can then be accosted by those who want to use it for negative purposes.
Yeah. You teach a serial rapist how to groom better, it's not good. You teach a man how to understand women better, that's great. And you're learning the same thing on the other side. You're just learning women, right?
You're making me really glad I didn't send you the Dexter Morgan photo when I was trying to find your location.
I love Dexter.
Austin. What? Oh
I
my God.
love Dexter.
Okay, there's another high five moment.
Dexter and I mean, Dexter doesn't know how good of friends we are. It's okay. That's okay with me.
Does he consent?
He would if he talked to me.
He would? Are you like the woman he takes on the table late in the show? That's so great. He needs a new love interest.
Well, maybe I'll message him.
Season 3 of Dexter Resurrection.
Oh, that would be great.
Wouldn't it?
I think I would be great in that show.
I think he would be great as a Dexter love interest.
I would make his job so much more effective. We would work together so well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So anyways, outside of Dexter, back to a couple things that you said I wanted to surface on, being that we have a new business model, our new marketing idea that is around comparing, making plays on consent and spam callers, right? Like, I sure as shit did not give you consent to call my phone once, and you've called me 3 times today, and we have no connection, right? Like,
oh, wow. Okay,
so that's going to be really fun. But then I'd also like to call out my shirt that says "Asking is hot," and all.
Perhaps this should be the image for the. It's only been 17 minutes. This is the best podcast ever. Okay. They can still hear you. Keep talking.
Oh. All right. Well. Underneath the shirt, it actually says "Love always wins" too.
Oh, that's so great.
So with that, we have a deck on our website that we are going to produce into actual cards as a truth or myth deck, and one of them says, "Asking ruins the mood," and it sounds like you might say truth on that, but it is a myth.
I've had moments where I might have asked my girlfriend if she wanted to have sex, and I didn't know how to read her.
Yeah.
And then I told myself, well, it's a nonverbal thing, and you have to express your desire in the language of the body, and then feel if she responds.
Right.
And that was the route I went, right? There may be still some debris in the realm of, because you could generate a whole coaching program around this. 6-week course, practice with your wife, practice with your partner, practice in dating.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
We're not interested in being coaches, but we are interested in creating the material to put this in your hands of every coach, every school, every university, every coach, because we need to reach every 13-year-old.
All right. I'll be your guinea pig. You can.
Great. I'll send you our materials since we print it. I already have a pilot university on board, so we're trying to get to printing right now. And the truth or myth cards is one. So this one truth or myth card says, asking ruins the mood, and it is a myth. And it is validated time and time again. Now, if you meet a girl And I'll just acknowledge here in this context, we'll talk a lot about heterosexual men versus women, but acknowledging that it is very similar situations across all dynamics and lovers and situationships and bodies. So you meet and you get their name, and then you're like, do you consent to anal and oral and vaginal sex? Yes or no? Like, yeah, that is gonna ruin the mood. And but that is because it's applied wrong, not because the questioning is wrong. You get in there and you question where it's appropriate, like you just met someone and it's, may I give you a hug? Or I would like to do this, can I? And then you hear the answer, and that's hot. Whenever someone like looks at you and is like, could I take off your shirt? You're like, my shirt? Yeah, let's take off my shirt. Right? And the fact that you get, like, this is where I just think that maybe men and women think a little differently, but I'm not a brain scientist or an MD, right? So it's just thinking on the response, right? Like for women, whenever they hear something and then they get the chance to respond to it, as in they lean into it, their pussy will open up faster, it will get wetter, and you will get what you want more often because you are checking in with her along the way. And it's outrageously critical, and asking is very hot. But asking the right questions in the right context is definitely a framework that needs some polishing, like a smooth slide, not like throw rocks at it.
like lots of fine-grained attention to the spot.
Yeah.
Of it. Yeah.
And small questions. Just like you meet a human, right? You're just trying to take this human to like the nth degree of intimacy as fast as you can. And you practice. I would sit down with someone and help them frame up 11 small questions that they feel comfortable saying. You can have a conversation with them, and I could jot down the 11 questions that they should ask and give them a script. And they could go from, I might have had some sexual assault situations I'm not proud of in my past, to I would never let that happen again. And I'll help make sure my friend network doesn't let this happen again. And I can understand how to get exactly what I want, probably more of what I want, just by approaching it in the correct way. That goes against, our work is a lot about this being systemic. It's not about it being human fault. We have centuries of programming from a patriarchy perspective of here is the role of the woman, here's the role of the man. I mean, the first context of the woman's body was actually the fact that the woman's body didn't get hot enough to take the internal penis and pop it outside, making her a deformed man from the beginning, is how the first medical documentation talks about the woman's body.
Was that Freud? Around his time, or
I'd have to go look at my book notes to source it. But
just I'm thinking through Freud, Kinsey, Masters and Johnson. I'm like, none of them. It had to have been the 18th, 19th century. Anyway.
Yeah, and there's also all the way back to the 1600s. There's a Melissa, that's a movie, but there's a book, it's in my book, that actually says the quote, a woman who thinks alone is a danger. It doesn't say dangerous, but it's literally part of the premise whenever books were first coming out and learning how to manage and talk with women. It just says, a woman who thinks by herself is a danger. And it's centuries of programming that we're trying to unwind here. So it is systemic. It is a systemic pushing towards silence, not pushing towards respect.
Yeah, it's just what spins off from that is the awareness that as a culture, Christianized largely, since the Middle Ages globally, for a woman to acknowledge her sexual desire would have been A, dangerous, B, sinful, C, might have gotten her burned at the stake,
yes.
As a witch. So in training people in this skill, there's as much a deconditioning and a serving and a solving, a dissolving of the knots that have been tied to prevent a woman from being able to fully self-express around this. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't go back and search out your history, which if you're not spiritually inclined or curious, right, we have more curiosity about genetics these days and figuring out who you are. But if you believe that, energy is carried across, generations and bodies, if you believe any of that at all, then, a lot of us would have been in a state where either we were getting burned or we were doing the burning. And, those behaviors back then wouldn't fly today, except that they happen today in the digital world. It's just not stakes. Now it's digital crucifixion, especially when women start to speak up.
I have a friend writing a book on that. Being canceled is something he experienced in public. And Now, for
It's
women,
real.
I'm sure it's different online. But
Well, Taylor Swift wrote a song on it, and she about being canceled, and helped signal to women that you see your friends by the same scars.
so
Because
you're a Swiftie.
I'm a huge fan of Taylor Swift.
Okay, yeah, that's
Can we
fun.
please keep her energy going strong? I mean, get her in
Fascinating.
Super Bowl halftime,
Yeah,
please.
she's like a blue level in wealth dynamics because she generates an entire economy when she shows up in a city.
And has amazing culture, supports her team, and gives bonuses that are beyond the work that people do because she cares about the value and she can. This is why women should be leading businesses and why women should be lead entrepreneurs, at least half to men. And we would have a more beautiful society.
Thank you for doing what you're doing and standing where you're standing.
Thanks.
On behalf of our civilization, yeah.
I am a Taurus, so there's part of me that, like, my bull is just ready to go where it needs to go.
That's right. You guys are so easy to talk to. And so sane and sensible and grounded and stable and healthy and balanced. At least that's my assumption. Those are all assumptions. I really love that you take spirituality as, well, I don't know if you take it personally as optional, but for those who are spiritually inclined was a phrase you said, and for those who might, and there are those who might not be, right? And so it's like, I've been studying under these mentors, 8-figure coaches, and another millionaire who's like runs a Buddhist psychedelic sangha. And so for them, spirituality is endemic and intrinsic to human flourishing and thriving at the highest level. Mm-hmm. And, success without fulfillment is failure, to quote Tony Robbins. But they take that and they spread it like an accordion, and they say, all right, well, you may attain bliss in your body, but unless you have a direct relationship to what that is and where that's coming from, you may end up in a cul-de-sac. And you can see it in the so-called New Age spiritual community. They're running around jerking each other off, or themselves, largely treating the universe as their own personal wishbone, without acknowledging or being aware of or responsible for the impact they're having on others or society at large.
Yes, there are shamans out there that I fully intend to have a direct relationship with at some point when I have more capacity, that think that it's okay to fuck around with a woman's system and energy system whenever that woman enters their field. Like, I've actually heard on TV men saying that if a woman shows up without wearing panties, then what happens is her fault. And these are shamans speaking in this realm. And there is like this expectation that, if you have this higher spiritual energy, you are allowed to have this type of penetration that wouldn't be acceptable for anyone else. And so I think that there is a lot of work to be done at that level. But that's the next level, right? Right now we're trying to work on the actual criminal codes. Do you know what our underlying mission is?
You go ahead.
Thanks for letting me share. We, to help get us to where we can, enjoy the shamanic and work further. The criminal codes is really, we're looking to change all of the criminal codes across all the states within the next 10 years to recognize consent and then proactive awareness consent within the criminal code. So New Jersey changed it in 98, and they have the lowest sexual assault rate in the United States at 17 per 100,000 compared to Alaska, which is the worst at over 111. And Arkansas is second to last, which is my home base. I never really, when I put that together, I was like, that's why I'm entrepreneuring out of Bentonville for this topic. And so getting those criminal codes really straightened out and recognizing the actual things that happen in reality and in bodies, and not requiring for women to force their way out of the sex if they didn't want to be there, right? They need to show physical damage for it to be considered sexual assault. That's the dynamic that we need to change first, just so that we can again have serial predators can be held accountable, and then communication gaps can be solved. And then I think diving deeper into the spiritual piece is going to be much easier and simpler and less predation at that level.
I'm realizing that allowing myself the grace of a clunky awkwardness, political ethically, in relation to this topic, is probably the only best place for me to land, because I know, despite the philosophy, I'm knowing now how much I don't know about the subtleties of this and about the repercussions of this. I mean, even one of my best teachers is one of the top NLP teachers. Are you familiar with NLP?
Natural language processing?
Close. Neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
Milton Erickson in the 60s, 70s maybe, would heal his patients in therapy using direct and indirect language patterns to induce trances without people realizing it. So you get an angry, ugly, by his own admission, poster child for sexless, loveless, rejected men in the late 80s, early 90s, discovering frogs into princes, and the work of Richard Bandler and John Grinder, taking the patterns of Milton Erickson, turning them into a self-development, self-transformation, self-healing system. And he finds these books and he's like, I'm going to use this to get laid. So his brand was Speed Seduction, which was all about, and this is like probably the most provocative thing to throw into the room, but it's part of my lineage.
I give consent.
Okay, great. that's another. I'm going to go with that. So I can turn a woman on with my words, and and what I had to do as I got further into this was like, let me at least ask permission. May I turn you on with my words? Because here's where he stood, Paul Ross Jeffries. He said, women sometimes are rejecting men because they don't look like, sound like, or have the bank accounts that their conscious mind is programmed to believe are the be-all, end-all of sexual satisfaction, ultimate fulfillment in a relationship. So men are getting passed over and they have no chance, no shot with attractive women, or the women that they find attractive, because of these, sociocultural and evolutionary psychological factors. So he was like, okay, a woman will ultimately respond to you based on the feelings she feels with you. And so if you can capture and lead her imagination and her emotions through clever languaging, which never overpowers the will of the other person, but it kind of serves as a context for the creation of an energetic channel between two people. And so if you can do that, then just as you were saying, she'll light up, she'll open up. And the tricky part about this is there are men operating from ego and woundedness, looking for a notch on the bedpost or at least an orgasm with a woman to validate themselves and run away from their own pain. Most relationships are just two egos jerking each other off to run away from pain and to seek pleasure and to follow, who was it in, I think it was Steve Kotler's Recapture the Rapture. He makes a joke about sex. He's like, we humans, we're tricked into doing this thing so that we'll repopulate the species. We think it's about us. It's not. It's a instinct that's traversing us. And so like, I was all about learning, studying, mastering this technology. Some of the first great and a lot of the best great sexual experiences in my life came from when I could tell that there was an energetic channel open and an emotional willingness. I would express in a certain way that would be an invitation to her to unlock the deepest chambers of her sexual subconscious and psyche and just embrace a fully non-judged, like hunger at the mammal, like the natural woman, we used to call it, level. And so like, what I would argue is, to the degree that someone is operating from programming, they don't actually have their free will. They're actually operating on autopilot programming. So if I walk in the room and I subvert their autopilot programming in service of freeing and liberating their potential to explore and experience what's really available with me here and now as another person, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it's... Now, I'm not going to say that everyone who has access to those tools or technology is ethical.
Right.
I mean, anything can be misused. But it took a lot. And I've still, in my own experience, like, there's a part of me, and this is getting really vulnerable and authentic with my training, like as a relationship coach, I know most women would probably have sex with me, given what I know about how to turn them on. But then it becomes a measure of like discernment. One of my mentors says, be careful where you point that thing. And he's talking about my sex and my heart, for those who can't see what I'm pointing to. because I tend to love people who I have sex with. Like, it's a thing. I tend to open my heart fully, energetically, emotionally.
Yeah.
And having the emotional, like, I don't have to marry the person, but just like in the better sex conversation, which I recommend to my people, like, you would ask the person, like, how do you want me to handle or relate to you afterwards? Like, or do you know the meaning? What is the meaning you would assign to this act? And if somebody doesn't have a good answer for that, then maybe back the fuck off, because they might be operating from an unconscious assignment of meanings. Like, oh, this means that they love me. This means we're now in a relationship. I was dating a woman in college, and she's in an open relationship. And she said, well, we can fool around, but not, no penetration, no intercourse. And so one day we're fooling around, and she says, all right, just the tip. And then she pulls me in, and now we're full on having intercourse because she's turned on. And that's another interesting thing about science, right? Is when someone is turned on, their kinks can evolve and open up. What they find pleasurable and desirable may shift subtly. Mm-hmm. So then the next day, we're talking, and she's like, yeah, you're my boyfriend now. And I'm like, wait, what? No, what? I did not consent to this. But it was her way of reconciling the distance between I only do this with this type of person who I've categorized in this way versus I just did this with this person. And so, yeah, there's a whole realm. I mean,
there's
anyway,
a whole realm.
Well,
Yeah.
what was your response to speed seduction? What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, speed seduction.
I know as a brand, it's kind of gnarly.
I mean, I think it can be beautiful. Like, whenever both people, especially like when we're talking, there's two different types of people, stages. There's stages in life, right? Like, if you are at a stage where usually it's younger, but sometimes people do it later in life, where you're just learning about sex and you're learning about the emotions that come whenever you have sex, and then like the speed seduction is really dangerous. You'll scoot through a lot of things before you actually know what's going on, and then you'll find yourself in an emotional state that's not conducive to your body. So like until you become more mature with your own sexuality and how you feel, it can be a situation that would get you into negative spots. And for someone that is constantly just working in those maneuvers, especially someone who has the strengths like you would, because you've done the research and the engagement, then like it would be a non-positive characteristic to use that against people just to get the pleasure that you want.
Yep.
But
thank you.
That would also
I feel so honored because I've been sitting on my hands is what it's felt like for like 10 years, except in relationship. When there's a very specific frame of previous consent, then I unleash the full power of what I know to do so that she can feel more pleasure.
Yes.
What she wants to feel. It's like most men are wandering in the darkness looking for the light switch, and I'm like, I've got it. It's right here.
Yes.
Anyway, please.
And there's a level of vulnerability, right? Like if you find yourself constantly taking advantage of people in a vulnerable state, well, that's called a predator. So like making sure that you're not feeding off of others' vulnerability, but more if you get into a space where you meet others that maybe haven't practiced or are in a very consistent state, they're very mature within themselves and they know what they want and they're in their own stage of life, right? Like this is what the ebbs and flows of life mean. Then speed seduction is beautiful. If you can connect with someone and go from a really speedy to, in a very authentic way and aligned, and both people have the skills and maturity to go from I met you to I'm really into you and we can have the same kind of sex within 2 hours, like go for it. Like safety, no STIs, no pregnancies, relationships aligned. Like if you can conquer all that, then like that's beautiful. But if you're the person driving it, you are the person that's accountable to it. Like, and you should hold your own accountability in your own actions.
I used to have a mat. There's a doormat outside my apartment that would say, wizards welcome, muggles tolerated. I would have never bought a mat like this for myself, but I found it and I put it there because it was appropriate, like with all of what I know about how to induce states of ecstasy and bliss in other people, from spiritual training and transformational work. Like,
yeah, we need to scale your message. There are women starving for men to know this more and more. And men want to learn too. Like there's a lot of men that I talk to, they want to learn. They don't know where to look. They don't know how to act, and they want to so much. And they're really sweet men, and they're just lost. And women are out there like, hey, where are the men that can meet me? Where are the men where I don't have to teach them?
Well, that's kind of you, and I agree, and I thank you. Let's magnify each other's missions. Go team. The question I have is like, a friend of mine in college, he stopped just short of getting a black belt in Kung Fu. Why? Because the moment you get a black belt in Kung Fu in Mississippi, you are now a lethal weapon, and you are liable for the responsibility of carrying a lethal weapon at all times. And if you do anything, the legal status changes.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but that's a very big status change in criminal law.
I think that happened for me with what I know in transformation. And my conscience was too strong and too loud for me to let myself get away with anything. Well, I mean, there were immediate karmic consequences in the early period about 10 years ago when I kind of tried, and then it was like, all right, I've got to be more careful. And so I don't know, that's another problem that's very much downstream of the law and basic consent understanding. And it's even downstream of the people at, International School of Temple Arts saying, hey, I'm going to have sex with you as your teacher. And, I'm in a position of authority, but that's part of the game we're playing here. Do you consent? Like, you're signing the form. And then all the corruption and Tantra teachers and other things in general. Like how can we make sure that the stronger someone gets and the clearer they get? Because the more personal development work, arguably, that someone does, the more of an advantage they have over everyone else in society, in civilization. The more power they have. With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. To quote Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. Take this inside the corporate world, and all of a sudden men think it's their fucking title or their pay, and they have this power over. And
well, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But, so I'm talking about real power to be stewarded well, as opposed to the power of Don Draper to seduce his fucking secretary because she happens to work in his office or some shit.
Yeah, happening all the time. And so, yes, it is a strong power, and it should be used responsibly. But, we can't, you can't control what people learn, So this is, I won't go into predation again. But I think that kind of where you're articulating that, like, where do you unleash this lethal weapon or not? And it's a real thing. And I think that if we have more males that understand that they have this ability and they could own it within themselves and they detach from the result so that only like a consensual, I want it too and I'm meeting you there lands with you, it's that's the beautiful thing, right? So we need to scale that.
Yeah.
And there's another topic you keep dancing around too that is very important. Our actual university pilot asked us to first email back. They said, will you please include this? And yes, we're in. Was the fact of consent being continuous. So like you go ask like, oh, do I have your consent to do all these things? Like I might say like, probably yes. I might even say yes in the moment. But then I can also go back and say no. I could have told you we were going to have anal sex at the bar, and then I can get home and be like, I don't want to have anal sex anymore. And that is, consent is continuous. You know, you could be in the middle of fucking someone and they could be like, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore. Get out of me. And the only response is there's no like, let me just finish. Are you sure? Like, no, there's really a meeting. And the same thing with the going silence and the going into freeze. That this is something that you see in mammals. We're gonna do some joke social recording about dogs acknowledging freeze better than humans.
Whoa. Yeah. Cool, I can't wait.
You can see it at a dog park. A dog it's so overly aggressive, the other dog freezes, and that dog will start to back off. Well, most dogs start to back off and be like, oh, do you want to get into this again? Right? And so that's a big part too.
I like to say people are processes, not things. They're movements, not moments. They're rivers, not rocks.
Nice.
You're almost turned on by that. That was kind of
start bringing water into it. Yeah,
great.
I'm gonna get turned on.
I'm so delighted. That was not intended words to turn you on, but there we go. That's good to know.
Don't turn me on in your podcast, please.
I will not. You do not consent to that. I heard it. It's clear. It's clean. So yeah, when I say that, it it comes from an awareness of, yes, you may touch my deck of cards.
Thank you, because I totally touched it without asking first. It's violating my own consent.
Well, it's a compliment when it happens so quickly and the interest is shown so dramatically. You want us to play? See, okay. Arguably, there should be a consent conversation before someone opens this deck of cards. We're talking about... No, you could do that if you want. Games for Humanity, Let's Talk About Sex, Volume 1 by my friend Aaron Hickok. Highly recommend. Everyone should buy. And then they should get their Let's Talk About Sex condoms. Oh, look, that's funny. That's great.
Wow.
Someone should put that on social media.
Yeah. There's a book that's it's Talk About Sex, not Let's Talk About Sex, too. They have a great logo.
So... I found the thread after much ado. What other questions do I have?
Yeah.
I promise I'll get to them. I'm going to finish this thought.
Okay.
So much power is unlocked between people when they start to see each other as rivers, as movements and whatnot, not just in the consent realm that you were just pointing to, but in the you're not my assumptions about you. You're not my stories about you. I don't actually know you. And if I cannot know you, which becomes kind of like a Zen koan, then there's room for you to be however you are, and to grow in my listening. And then my listening becomes this agile, because you exist as the echo in my head that I listen to when you're not around, or that I put focus of attention on. And if I start to track and husband and steward that listening, and what I mean by that is like, okay, well, you did or said a thing. You led me on a wild goose chase. Or what very much felt like one. My inner critic could say, oh, she's irresponsible, disrespectful, she's whatever. And if I'm husbanding the listening, I can peel away that layer and say, no, I don't actually know what happened. And I don't actually know anything about the character. I just know what I experienced. And so I continue to listen to you as the process that you are, and to allow you, the being, to shape my experience of you, rather than the thinking, the overthinking, always making a commentary on what's going on. Because most people are listening to each other. They're listening to the conversation in their head that they're having about the other person, right? So I could say, I guess this is coming from too high-minded a spot. Like, it might be, it might not, which is like, I don't consent to being the thing you think I am.
I love that phrase. We might put that on a sticker.
That becomes a t-shirt. You got to make sure you quote me.
Yeah.
And in that, you're also free to only engage with me insofar as I'm willing to respect and honor the process that you are. Mm-hmm. And so then love, desire, which gets created and expressed in language, we can always wake it up, recreate it, transform it, transmute it, because of this agility we have as now. It ultimately becomes spiritual beings having a human experience in human bodies, so that the identity shift. Mm-hmm. Like whatever you're aware of isn't you. You are the thing that has the capacity to be aware of the thoughts and feelings and sensations that you're having. You're the space where they arise. Mm. You're not just the thing itself. You're not the bitch of your nervous system. You're not the bitch of your sensations. You're actually this incredible being beyond it. More, better, different, other than it. So I like to say, if I'm teaching dating and relational skill, it's actually profound personal and spiritual development under like camouflage. Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing worth selling other than the ultimate peace, love, and joy that we're all able to access and experience and engender and overflow into each other and exude. And anyway, now I'm on my soapbox, but thank you. That's what Make Love Easy means to me.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed hearing that. It landed well.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. It it makes me be curious about.
I promise I've got a whole list more of questions for you. So this one I'll take, and then we'll come back.
Okay. And for the audience, you just gave me the gesture. Give it to me. So in energy bodies, right, when you do have a violation of consent, one of our daydreams is training detectives on what it feels like to lose your consent so that they can investigate it more thoroughly. And so if we think about the stats today, right, we're easily at 1 in 4 women have had some kind of a sexual assault encounter. Half in the United States, especially if you focus on certain states, it gets to half. If I consider the underreporting situation going on, the child issues that are going on. So one of the things we care about is how this is addressed. Like the way that you were just describing, understanding someone as a process, right? What would be some of the things that you have dealt with or would maybe deal with whenever there is someone who has been a survivor of a sexual assault, and maybe there is a lot of beauty that can be there, but their consent and their bodily autonomy was violated at a point, and they may or may not have awareness to it. They may or may not have memory to it. They may or may not have reported it. They may or may not have dealt with it. And then the whole idea of the body keeps score, right? So even if they dealt with it and they went all the way through the court system or they cleared it with that person, sometimes the body still keeps it and still creates barriers and still creates, will create different behaviors. One of the first things that I started working on before HMS is that I would actually work with survivors, not because I would find them, but they would find me, and we'd get into it. And a lot of times it's going back to the moment of their assault and actually getting them back there in their own psyche and deciding what was their desire like just before that happened. And then, I'll say 9 out of 10 times, just because I don't want to say 10 out of 10, it changes from pre and post assault. Right. So getting someone to actually understand what their desire was before, which is how they would more authentically show up in the relationships they want. So how would you deal with this in a relationship? Think of with just the Epstein files alone, and you see all the husbands of these survivors. This is one reason why I know our business has a lot of legs, because if you just think of women, and then let's pretend a woman has 5 partners after sexual assault, that's a 5x of the sexual assault numbers, right, of people where this material becomes relevant, because they need to know how to deal with these situations and how to either just be respectful and aware of it, not abandon people because of it, or help them drive through it, or help them find the resources. So how does this show up in your work?
How if you could simplify the question, Your Honor, and re-ask so that because I have thoughts, but I want to organize them in the precise direction of your answer.
Yeah, thanks for letting me give the context. The question would be, how do you deal with post-sexual assault whenever you're trying to coach through relationships?
Responsibility lies on the individual who has the capacity to perceive and experience the pain first, right? So if I'm bearing the brunt of the results of a trauma, I cannot assume that the other person will ever apologize or do anything. In fact, this is the best place to proceed from in any conflict, is to assume you'll get nothing, and be grateful for anything, and be a clear space to receive exactly what you want. Anything is possible in a conversation, a negotiation, a desired result can be communicated, but you have to be ready for not receiving. So that's the first piece, because what I'm saying is basically coaching the individual who's got the problem. And then how to deal with the partner is downstream of that, right? And I've run into this a number of times, a variation on this mismatched desire. And there's so many subtleties in what kind of unsafety may have accumulated in the woman's nervous system based on him not regulating his anger. And as men, it's our job to regulate our feelings and to express them, to contain them, really, because if we get angry at her and unleash the full power of our strength and masculine fury, she may experience a shutting down of unsafety, where now she can't communicate. Now she can't give herself permission to express desire because she doesn't feel safe with the man at a nervous system level that maybe consciously she has no intention or desire to, he's unsafe, story him. So going back, because there's so many threads now here, with her, I would say, this is going to be as controversial as fuck as anything that we get into, so make sure, okay, we've got ample time. I invite people to take on the perspective that they are responsible for everything that happens to them. Not that everything is their fault, but that it's their responsibility, as in they have a capacity to respond to it, and a capacity to own and create an empowering context around it, And whatever's in front of me, I've created. Even if it's a car accident of somebody hitting me from behind at a red light, and I was obeying the law, and I was, just doing my due diligence as a responsible driver. Like, the question then becomes, what actions could I have taken that could have had that go differently? What actions didn't I take? What actions did I take? So that's what we call being cause in the matter. What actions could I take to shift this? And this is all, again, operating within the psyche of the woman first, who's been violated. Like, so that she can clean up her side of the street first, release judgment, because judgment reinforces what we're focusing on with the judgment. No more war. No more war. Anti-war protests are asking for more of what we are claiming to be against. So like Buckminster Fuller talks about, don't try to fight the existing reality. Build an entirely new paradigm that precludes the existence of the problem or the symptom. Like it irons out that wrinkle. So to get to the most controversial part, I tell my people, love doesn't come from people, it comes through people when you tune to it. I'm speaking of cosmic love, a love that never leaves, a love that is a feature of the nervous system, activatable regardless of whether or not some human gives it to you. And then I also follow that up with abuse doesn't come from people. It comes through people when you tune to it. So that invites somebody into this space of radical responsibility, which is like, okay, so I manifest my reality with my subconscious beliefs. Does not mean I'm manifesting personally the war in Gaza or the behavior of Donald Trump or international law, right? It just means that whatever I'm experiencing personally is likely got something, or very likely a lot, to do with my past traumas, my past beliefs, my subconscious debris. And until and unless I get responsible to clean up my side of the street, really what's going on in the inside, in me, that has me have a habit of choosing what's familiar to me, even if it's dysfunctional for me, then I'm going to keep repeating the pattern. The quote you gave us earlier from Carl Jung, man is how I heard it. I always change it to mankind, right? Must make what is unconscious conscious, or the outer world will rule our lives and we will call it fate, right? So until and unless someone's got that frame, everything else is a losing game, because it starts in victim and shame and judgment and like I'm reacting to, and I never want to have that happen again. We put our past into our future when we don't deal with it. It isn't just our past and our present. Like, I'm looking at you through the filter of, is she safe? Because I might have sex with her and then she might, we might fall in love and then we'll get engaged and she'll say, no, I don't actually want to be engaged with you. And then my heart will get broken. This was something that happened to someone I really love, is this whole frame and filter. The past became part of the present. But it goes into the future. So our future is what our nervous system is actually pulling for. So, like, don't teach her Krav Maga until after she's done the work to ensure that it won't happen again as a matter of manifestation through her subconscious beliefs, through her energetics. And then from there, give her orgasmic meditation and let her husband or her partner lovingly, gently, sensitively cultivate deep limbic resonance level awareness, like where he can feel her lack of or amount of consent and desire in his own body. So she doesn't have to bear she isn't load bearing the weight of finding her desire, expressing consent, learning how to figure everything else out. He can serve the same purpose. This is coming together like a puzzle as I'm speaking, because there's so many pieces. In the same way that it's a man's job first, to go first as the leader with the stronger nervous system capacity. And what I mean by that is women have a more decentralized, open system. You all read facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, energy better and more sensitively than men ever will, just neurologically speaking, because female nervous systems and genetically coded beings are built by evolution to have babies and to read, why is that baby crying and what does it want from me, in a way that's completely nonverbal. Whereas, men are built to be hunters and all this, going out there looking for objective satisfaction. So, he is sensitive to unsafety and it's his job to protect the woman. I mean, it sounds really conservatively slanted and old school, like that's a man's nature. But by the nature of the nervous system and by the nature of the brain, that's what a man is best suited for. That's what's easiest for him to do.
And we need more of.
When he actually surrenders into what he's there to do. I mean, you can cut him up physically. You can mess him up mentally. He may get very confused. He may get suicidal because he's trying to do something that his biology is telling him not to do, or trying to tell him to do this thing. So I guess I'm a naturalist in that sense. But so then you bring that kind of schooled, skilled man into the context of an engagement with a woman who's been traumatized. Well, okay, then just hold space. Grant unconditional space and being for her, however she shows up. Be with her. She may cry during sex. She may have a pain that comes up. Just be that form of love, that co-regulative, sensitive love, as she comes back into her full power without a rush to, she now needs to, be at a certain level of desire or sophistication and expression of it. And that kind of, this is the nature of creationship. It's a relationship about more than just itself. So you're not here to meet my needs. I'm not here to meet yours. We may do so, but in the context of what can we aim at that's bigger than us? How can we help the world with our love and connection and communication and whatever, even our sex, right? And so if the man has been schooled in that specifically, he's giving not to get in any moment of holding space or generosity or contribution or commitment. He's giving to give because he gets to give, because that is who he is. And ideally, he's turned on the switch internally to where he's experiencing a love that never leaves, and he's self-sourced and self-satisfied sexually, to where she's not she's not bearing the load of meeting his needs. She gets to participate in and contribute to and co-create something that can't happen on his own, which is the completion of the energetic, emotional, sexual circuit, the positively charged penis, the negatively charged vagina, the positively charged breasts, the negatively charged heart. Interestingly, right, pulling in both directions. And when you look at Tantra, how it seems pretty obvious to me that we're designed as nervous systems to be able to do that, and that there are consequences to it. Which for the past 10 years I've wrestled with. It's like, I really want to be that Casanova who wrote the book of erotic poetry, but I don't know, man. I can't just do that. I can't just do it. That's been my greatest dilemma over the past 10 years. But anyway, the signal-to-noise ratio in her nervous system will calm down as she can relax. And as her pleasure is encouraged for its own sake through orgasmic meditation, which is a man strokes a woman's clitoris, the upper left-hand quarter, in a yoga posture, with his clothes fully on for 15 minutes with no other object than for them both to feel whatever sensations come up. And ideally for her to unleash and unfreeze the full power of her orgasm and pleasure. And so as that happens, what becomes available for her is greater sensitivity to when she actually has deep, real, true, specific desire. So this is re-educating her body and her nervous system and her consciousness in consent at a level that the external stuff is necessary for, but would ideally be a prelude to this kind of thing. So that's my answer. I know it took forever.
It was well thought out and thorough. Which I'm not surprised after learning some of your material and having conversations with you.
Cool.
Not surprised by it, but I love the depth of it. I haven't got to think about it at that level of a depth yet. I was getting a little nervous at the beginning because there is a fine line between owning what happened to you and victim blaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the victim blaming is a huge systemic problem that's a source of so
Definitely
many.
Not saying I don't hear or acknowledge that exists, and it's not a problem to be solved independently of the subconscious stuff.
Right, but once it already occurred, that the way that you described through those channels and how they can go through the body, that was beautiful. How many people do you coach? Can we get you coaching more?
I coach not nearly enough these days.
We're going to put you on our website. It's like relationships to dig through sexual assault. You could dial right into there.
Honored. Yeah. Happy to help. Happy to help. Referral bonuses back your way. Make it an ecosystem.
Yeah. That's part of our avenue. We are trying to create a certain brand that is advantageous to future buyers around like the Have More Sex piece, but we're way more interested in promoting brands and coaches and like letting people find what they need to find in the realm of sex. So we have aspirations for a big affiliate thing, but probably 2027 because a lot to build.
Yeah.
I really love the way that you walk through it, and it does have to have that kind of like to take ownership of the actual situation that happened. You have to get to a point where you can create that awareness, and then have the partner meet you and create that space and hold. Yeah.
Elegantly put. Thank you. You did in 12 words what I did in 25,000 or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's like leaders go first, and she goes first, and then he goes first in the way that he should, the partner. And then ideally they become a part of this movement and fight for all of humanity to have that same awareness and understanding and intention. Yeah.
And then everyone's just having more glorious sex that they want.
Yeah.
It's a much safer world.
Make love. Easy. Let's see. I have all these questions. We got through one of them. What was your superhero origin story? Like, what's your big why? And even if it was a Batman's parents got killed kind of dark thing, I'd love to hear.
For this startup?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two. The reason that this startup exists is specifically from a case that was brought to my attention in Northwest Arkansas, where there was a friend of mine that was raped, and when it was like a year that went past before any of my friends brought me into the equation. They tried, all the normal channels of trying to press charges because it was such a clear rape situation that happened. And a year later, when they brought me in on it, I'm an operator at heart, and I looked at the details, and I looked at the police report, and I just started. My bull showed up asking questions because this was a situation like it took me like a ridiculously small amount of time to see how this predator was grooming and actually posing as an entrepreneur to curate a group at which he could just groom from. And so we had the first assault that had physical violence noted in the rape kit, and no reason, physical violence, sorry, not like drugs were involved, not by choice. The person was drugged, right? And but there was physical evidence of damage on the woman's body that was never addressed, right? If she'd been punched in the face, they would have figured out what happened, right? But so the damage not being addressed, the law enforcement just finding so many outs and excuses, right? They need, we need more victims. Okay, well, we found you more victims. We need XYZ. Okay, we found that too. And they still couldn't find ways to press charges. And then I sat with the prosecution office and heard about their win-loss rate bullshit that they're trying to tell survivors that maybe they think aren't business-minded about it. But every word they said was nothing but a business win-loss record that they were dealing with. And that just hurt my gut. And so when I looked at that and I looked how easy it was for an entrepreneur to do this it was like one little micro event, and then I took a step back, and I've been known for this with my friends. It's been decades that women have been finding me, and they're like, I've got this situation, whether it's someone bullying them and I need to show up to that dude's house, I need to help kick a dude out of a house, I need to help a woman go to report sexual assault from an HR perspective because she just wants to like change departments or something. I've been constantly found in that way and been asked to be this consult, and I love showing up when I'm needed there. I don't love showing up arbitrarily. I hate drama, right? So I'm very much like drama can go the fuck away, but when this clear line of people just being assholes to each other, like I stand on that line with whoever needs me to stand next to them, and I show them a path. I show them how to ask a question or ask it for them. And then this situation came up, and I couldn't unsee it systematically. This is what the whole book is written about. Consent Codes is about the systemic shaming and the systemic problems that we're creating our own problem.
So you address it beyond sexuality in the book? Or is it Like, because consent is a big problem everywhere.
Yeah.
Or you begin the conversation is what it sounds like, or you imply tools that could be used for it.
Yeah. It's so it starts out articulating the problem across ways so people can see the ecosystem shortfalls, and then it gets into codes that you can use as a human to like change your position with consent. So if you skip all the negative bullshit and just like look at the end of it, the very, very back just literally has the codes, right? And so it's giving people a way to show up and address this, so that they don't have to keep feeling like they're either having the same situation or they don't have an out of a situation that they're in, or feeling like they can't control it, right? Because there is the accountability level at the state, but then we're just all humans in this, right? Like part of it is a bro code on like, you see a friend of yours having sex with an unconscious woman, you tell them that that's not okay. Right? If we just start there enough, like that'll change enough of the game.
Oh, it's funny when you said bro code, I read it the other way, like bros protecting bros from prosecution, or thank you. You're bringing it back.
That's
to quote
another
Clerks.
bro code. That is bros protecting bros is a problem, and that's it. And so there's a lot of avenues to take it, but the piece about trying to put the codes into people's hands is what the book looks at, and looking at it just in a more systemic way.
Wow, thank you. There's a lot. That visceral experience of she has been harmed, the system is built up to not give her what she needs in terms of justice, representation, recognition, acknowledgement, even. I can't even begin to open my heart to feeling the depth of that pain on behalf of the feminine. Like, I think I would walk away just like,
yeah.
But I choose to, right? I choose to open that, and I think here's my answer. Part of my answer to that as a problem culturally, and I can't wait to get back to these because there's so many more. But life is an 18-inch journey from the head through the emotions to the heart. And most people act out of unconsciousness because they're unconscious of what's going on inside of them. Hurt people hurt people. Healed people heal people. So if people can take that journey and deal with whatever it is that they are using unconscious sort of objectification of other people to run away from or to work out in themselves, then I think the hearts would tell the story and would answer the question. And what I mean by that is like our hearts would be too sensitive to the impact we're having on other people to engage in behaviors that cause that depth of harm.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And the reason that our business is also framed out so that we are a DTC model, we're a B2B model, and we're a B2G model, so that we're kind of covering the whole ecosystem in the way that we're approaching it, has to do with some of these earlier constructs on how the problem initiates itself. So, how the problem initiates, but then how it's also treated in society. So I served on the board of the YWCA also in Virginia, and I was really serving on it to help fundraise. But I was like, let me tour the shelter, let me listen to a phone call. And, it became, if you look at the ecosystem that's set up to support survivors, it makes you want to put a pin in your eye, because it's looking like the support for survivors is so thick and so deep and like has so much, all of these like call this phone number or call this person, right? Everyone is willing to deal with the outcome of the situation, and there's a whole ecosystem of the outcome of the situation that's, because there's a system before it that's creating this situation. And then now we're at a place where we're letting the government come in and out with their funds to decide. Like, there was a ton of sexual assault centers recently closed, and the ones that weren't closed are the ones that live in rich towns. So now we've got like a capitalism issue going on with the level of support, because the government needed to support it because it got so thick. And you have women that'll do businesses as survivor businesses, and they don't understand the capitalistic implications of their own lives. either, right? So it's just, putting yourself in another bad situation sometimes. And so we're not a support center, and we are fully on the let's go change the system that's creating the problem instead of dealing with that support system. But when you look at how thick the support system is, and then you get into a few cases, like that case is just one. I'm willing to work on 3 cases at a time that deal with serial predation, and I have all 3 that I'm working on right now, and a docket of 11 that I'm not trying to find, didn't ask for, but these cases keep appearing to me. It's insane the amount of volume that's here.
You're not a trained lawyer, are you?
No, I'm not a lawyer.
You've just Aaron Brockovich'd your way into a thing.
My last startup was a bit Robin Hood. Amazon was paying 70% of invoices on their wholesale side, and we figured out how to get them to pay that 30% plus ish back, and we would give it back to the brands and take a commission. And so that gave that being a successful venture in this Robin Hood vibe gave me a lot of confidence behind my bull to say you can ask these questions, and in this realm we're not in some business sensitive complex thing where it's a penny here and a situation over here. We're just at pussy, penis, and a law, right? Pretty fucking simple. So, and beyond the pussy, penis, but if we just get that going first, it's so much more simple. But when my systematic brain comes back and takes a look at it, there's part of me that wishes I was a lawyer, because I've had a lawyer write me and tell me that I was unauthorized practicing law whenever the survivor had to go back to him and tell him that I'm in no way, practicing law in this case. But even a lawyer supporting a law enforcement agency so that I would stop asking questions tried to threaten me, and I'm here for it.
Well, I mean, I guess the next escalation is actual Batman, right? I mean,
it's more Black Widow is really my vibe.
Yeah. Actually, what was that? That was Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. And she'll get a man to sit in a chair and then just fucking take him out. Would you please sit in that chair? Oh yeah.
I love when she meets Iron Man. She gets him in the boxing ring, and they think she's just there to get the survey, and she knocks him down. Anyway, so we have your superhero origin story. Check.
Yeah, that's the origin story. There's. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
I do have a Black Widow costume, and it is hot. I love wearing it.
All right. That's exciting. When's your next time in Austin?
I'll pack it.
So, let's see. Oh, maybe don't quote "You Let Me Violate You" by 9 Inch Nails. Cults and manufacturing consent and marketing and sales. So, this is a whole world. I arguably recently just walked out of a cult. And thank you. I thank you. No one has done that for me yet. I can't imagine.
Well, I wish I had balloons.
Yeah, me too. And it got me really thinking, because there are all these self-justifying, self-supporting, self-congratulatory sort of frameworks and philosophies that the leadership and then the people who I've trained under. So my first business was a business for events, and then COVID killed that. My second business, I was trained by business coaches to coach coaches. Now, if you add one more layer, it becomes an MLM. That's the joke.
Yep.
And at that point, there was this whole conversation of, well, if you don't deploy world-class marketing, professional marketing and sales training in seeking to acquire clients, then other people who have less of a conscience, who are less qualified and competent in producing real results, they will. And, so long as you are personally taking on the leadership of and the responsibility for, am I including their actual needs and desires in the sales process, and not just zip, zam, now I've got another sign up. Then for me it became well, every tool that I can use, every tactic, every strategy, so long as it's also in service to them, I will use. Not to take away consent, but ideally to restore the consent that was taken away by their autopilot, by the limiting beliefs, by their ego's felt need to run away from a difficult conversation, by their belief that they don't have money when really they do, and they're probably going to spend it on a cruise next week instead of the $5,000 package I'm pitching them on, right? So I'm curious what you think about consent in marketing and sales. I have my framework that I just gave you that leaves me feeling ethical in what I do, and I believe actually has me being ethical. But how would you speak to that realm? Have you ever even considered that? I mean, you seem very focused. So sexual consent, penis, vagina law, great. And I just would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, gosh, if a company is trying to get me to be an advocate, which I love being an advocate of brands doing great things, if they don't have a way for me to also not be in it, then I see that as a red flag. Like, you need to make sure I can unsubscribe. Okay, if you're sending me messages, I should be able to tell you that I don't want them. I don't want phone calls that I didn't, especially not multiple ones. I think
we found one thing that really gets under your craw. You've said this several times. Multiple phone calls in one day, apparently. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, the finance industry needs to get their spam under control. It's horrendous. So I think that there is a lot of space. There's so much more entrepreneurship today than there has been in the past due to the way that our systems and our access to information has changed, and it's obviously only blowing up with the way that AI is delivering and changing every day. So it's another part that just gets down to the human side of it. And I think if marketing and sales is intended to manipulate people just to get the sell across, there is a problem there. You can't, I hate being fucking oversold, especially on tech, and especially when as an operator. Like if I buy something from you that you tell me does X, Y, Z, and then I get a weekend with you and you tell me those X, Y, Z things are on your roadmap, right? That is different. And that is where sales has to make promises to win, right? But you have to do the work as an entrepreneur to land those promises and have some clarity as to what your future looks like. But there's a very big difference to what I'm giving you and what I'm promising to you. And I think that coming across in sales and marketing is something that we're going to struggle with for a long time. And people who know how to take advantage of systems and know how to take advantage of people operate much I theorize. I don't have a medical science to back this up, but they operate more expediently because they're not carrying the conscious weight that goes with the decisions, right? So just sell that person that you can make them $100,000 in a month if they do these things and get them to sign up. And that is not okay. And it happens. I've been a part of programs where I didn't even understand that was going on until after the fact. And there's only getting back to what your scope of control is and what you can influence is you need to be super clear. You framed it out and said, this is where I feel clear. And it sounds really beautiful. And I think if entrepreneurs did that consistently, thinking about their actual end user, not about their goals, then we'd live in a much more pleasant world as far as just how the engagement goes, and that you can drop into the thing that you think that you signed up for and feel good about it, as opposed to dropping into buyer's remorse, right? Can it be feeling good 80% of the time, buyer's remorse 20% of the time? And there's, I think usually whenever someone with a clear idea on a problem, that they're actually trying to solve a problem, they're trying to solve a problem for the user. They're not trying to solve their own money problem. All of us humans have money, and we all have money problems. And if you're trying to just solve that, then you should just be clear about that. Give me money because I just need to make money, and that's it. And I'm going to do anything that requires, versus I'm actually trying to solve a problem. And I mean, those are just very different vibes as they come across in marketing. And I think there's and then the ability to continuous consent even in the business, right? Just because I signed up for one thing doesn't mean I signed up for 10. These fucking auto charges that go on and you can't get out after the fact. There's there's a lot of ways for people to get trapped in that space, and it's not that much different than sexual assault, which might be a great way for us to examine as a marketing ploy a little, for just to call out these variances and these differences.
Yes.
Or do a metaphor kind of comparison on it. But I think as this is one thing that Newton's law of motion, an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an equal or opposite force. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurship is that equal and opposite. Mm-hmm. It's that net effective force, and that being able to actually
disrupt.
Yeah, and sometimes things need to be disrupted and pushed against in that way. So it's, entrepreneurship is more critical than ever in our society, and we don't have any accountability to accountable entrepreneurship. It doesn't exist. You can prove that someone is actually raping their students, and still who cares or who's going to shut them down besides another entrepreneur just taking away their revenue and taking away their vendors, taking away their locations, taking away their jobs, right? And that takes organic one-on-one conversations to articulate the problem, and that's where entrepreneurship can meet entrepreneurship, right? But then you got what's that called? Vigilante entrepreneurship?
Because I'm Batman,
right? It can be a place. So I really think it's worth a conversation. I would love if there could be some kind of accountability figure to it, but then that just becomes the government pretty fast. So it's a sticking point, and I think kind of in the work that you probably find a lot in relationships is that people may not even have an awareness on what they're doing to other people or have a clear conscience, right? They think they're helping because of XYZ when they're actually really damaged. They might be helping 3 people while they damage 10, and that's not okay. But it happens. The net effect is negative.
So good. You're so cool. The sharp awareness and sensitivity and the ability to spin that much into coherent form and crystallize it around that particular aspect of entrepreneurship, marketing, sales. I threw you a curveball there.
Thanks.
You're welcome. What else do I have? Okay, this is my last question. It's deeply philosophical. Okay. We don't really consent to being thrown into the world or international law. And the ultimate in the activation and the integration of your commitment to consent, because it's not just consent in sex. That's the use case.
That's the problem we're actually solving.
Yeah, that's the problem you're actually solving, but it becomes when someone actually begins to practice in that realm, then I imagine it broadens out into, what do I consent to in life? And we're domesticated and programmed by preachers, teachers, family, friends, media, and government, the media industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, the military industrial complex, to think and believe and act in certain ways that I didn't have the ability to consent to before they got into my blueprint. So I don't know, maybe it's a rhetorical question that I'm asking, because I'm committed to human freedom and liberation of human potential and thriving and flourishing, and I don't think that's going to happen until we wake up to what's already going on and free ourselves into a life that we actually choose, a life that we love, a life that we consent to. I'm just, I guess, curious where you stand on that and how that lands with you.
Your statement around we don't actually consent to coming into this world.
I don't know.
No one's brought that up. Of course you don't. You pop out of a pussy. No one asked you if you wanted to be there. All you did was not miscarry along the way.
Spiritual teachers who claim that we did, but that evidence is scant and it's not empirical enough for me to actually argue about it in a meaningful way.
Right. So. There is the energy chooses to be part of this world and, chose not to leave through miscarriage before it comes out. But that was really fascinating. I haven't thought about it all the way back to that original inception of life.
Well, I guess I was giving you a deeper, you've got enough fuel for your mission for the rest of this lifetime and possibly more. And I'm doubling down on adding nitrous oxide to that engine. It's when consent culture changes and shifts or leans in this direction meaningfully enough, and then at the legal and government level, I would like to think of it as a springboard into a consent-filled life.
Consent-filled life.
Consent-based life. Yeah.
It really, I don't know that, I think this doesn't really dial into maybe what you were hoping with the question. So I'll be happy to elaborate, but
no.
It really just makes me think about the child mind and how the child mind is framed around consent so young. There's countries where they just have like children give permission to give hugs. They give consent to how they want to be greeted in school at a young age. And so I think if that gets met, right, with some level of intention and really a power of authenticity behind it, to where we're just teaching at such a young inceptional brain stage of this is what consent looks like for me and how it communicates to you, that that's really what it makes me think about. How do we
engender it at the youngest age?
Yeah, I mean, if the form consented to being on this earth, then how do we carry that intention from that moment forward?
That's a conversation worth bringing a whole infrastructure and architecture of deep philosophy and sensitive spirituality to. So, what would you want to leave people with? If there was one thing that was above all, and you may have already said it, but it bears repeating, and that's the point of the concluding thoughts sort of segment or section of this, is like, how should people act and think differently now?
Having this confidence and awareness to consent being as individual as your fingerprints, and as it's individual for every single person. So having the awareness and the confidence to embrace your own consent, to gain consent from others, and to figure out how you can create that safe space is exactly what creates more sex in our societies. And the creation of more sex means the creation of more people being vulnerable and being in this space where we can really like lean in and trust and like actually thrive. And I think that would just be, it's not an awkward or scary or inapproachable topic. It's super simple, and it's just your individuality, and it just almost borderline bases in some like self-love and self-confidence piece is how consent can come across. I know myself, I love myself, and I'm confident enough to use words that matter so that I can engage with others. And so I would love for people to understand the simplicity of consent and the individuality of it, because that would mean that you would feel as confident as expressing it as your favorite color. Thanks for that question, though. I haven't gotten it a lot, so
you're welcome.
There's so many things, and I think the simplicity of it. If it really became as simple as it actually is, that would feel really beautiful to me.
Across the globe.
Yes, we're starting with the U.S. and focusing on it, but man, I'm telling you, and there's a couple other countries that I really want to get started on next.
The entire Middle East, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of work there. There's a lot of work in Africa. There's a lot of work in Canada. Like, for some reason, whenever areas get more remote, it's harder to enforce, and it's harder for people to become accountable, and the rates get worse. And, that correlation is irrational to me. That correlation should just dissipate.
Do you get overwhelmed or enlivened by the scope and grandeur of the mission that you're ultimately on?
I was in complete overwhelm because I had so much anger forging through my body until I started the business. And as soon as I've started the business, I'm enlivened all the time.
God bless you. In my training, anger is authority or authorship returning. So underneath anger is authorship. And it's as if, how I would put it, feel free to take it this way or not, is God is authoring the freedom and liberation of the safety and consent of women through your soul.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to write the book in 3 months. It took 4 to get out, and I'm okay with that pace. It was...
What?
Yeah.
Mine took 6.
Nice.
To write and produce and market, and I'm impressed. Somebody who beat me.
That anger, man, made it go fast.
Yeah.
I had to write a chapter about porn, and I was like, how can I get through this fast enough?
Oh my God, what the fuck?
Such a crazy topic.
Andrea Dworkin, pornographic material is embodied rape. That was her perspective in sexual ethics class.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because it's almost all from the male gaze, and it weaponizes the male gaze in the embodiment of the actual pornographic female star. Like, she's feeding the male gaze and reinforcing it as programming, and the people watching, be they male or female, so that she can pay her rent. Like, wait a second, something horribly wrong is happening here.
And it teaches aggression that people would not have exposure to in another way. Like the amount of stories that I've heard from men about their first exposure being to something aggressive on porn just really lean me right back into, like, you know, I feel bad for men a lot. I'm like, poor men, you know, like you're just tossed into this space with all this testosterone and energy flowing through you, and then the first thing you see is like, oh, break into her house, punch her and fuck her and go. Like that's a problem.
So it's tricky because there is an actual instinctual hunger, need, and drive, not for doing violence, but for doing what energetically may feel like violence. So Georges Bataille, his theory of the erotic was that which is taboo is erotic. So the moment we create a taboo around something to any degree is the moment it enters scarcity. Like, it's rare that we can have this, so whatever desire there just got multiplied and magnified. And then he ultimately says the individual is a taboo. And what we mean by that is, like, the self is, it ultimately understands that it's not just itself. And so then it craves to be released from itself. So the erotic is the ascenting unto life up unto the point of death, the point where the self breaks apart and no longer feels that sense of alienation, isolation, and separateness that we walk around with our stream of consciousness. And that sex gives, and then in college, in the sexual ethics class where this was shared with me, like the person presenting this particular really wild French philosopher's theory was like, oh, just look at the people who give themselves AIDS, like because they're craving death. There's this Thanatos thing, or the person who had someone fuck them and then kill them. Like, okay, well, there's something to that in the psyche. But what I think is, like, if we just take it at the mammalian nervous system level, the female nervous system goes into lordosis. She displays her ass. She goes into doggy style position, waiting and hungering to be taken. Mm-hmm. So there's a moment in the female psyche where that is absolutely meant to happen, downstream of some sort of consent, for sure. And then for a man who's never trained in when, where, and how to express that instinctual, I'm going to overcome her, I'm going to penetrate her, I'm going to take her. Like, yeah, it's like we need better training for where to put that energy and that impulse and that desire, and a way of being responsible with it. Porn is not that.
No, but you're totally spot on. That, like, when women who have consented and feel safe in the space and are very open, and they feel a man taking them over, maybe they hear a growl, and maybe they see, like, the man's even struggling to contain his own, like, masculinity, and like that's exactly why women open up. They can carry a lot, and that is erotic and intense and beautiful in a safe space.
I like that you leverage all the juiciness of sex to teach, as in marketing and in pedagogy, to have people hunger to learn consent in order to unlock more of what they are hungering for underneath it.
Yeah, in my, like, wildest entrepreneur dreams, we have, like, men just begging to learn the words of consent so they can go to town. Is there? I mean, I would love to just go change the criminal codes right away, right? That would really excite my inner business side, but when I talk about that, it bores people to death. And when I say the word consent, their eyes start getting closed. They're not into it. It's not exciting. But as soon as I started talking about Have More Sex, every head of every man in the room turned. And a lot of these rooms were friends. I'm friends with them. It's very safe, and we're spitting business ideas together. And this was so consistent. Like, the juicier and the hotter we make it about, like, real raunchy sex, like, the more successful we're going to be. And I can't believe that we actually framed a business like that without it being porn or sex education. It's like we're one of the most exciting products that we're looking forward to is Pocket Anatomy. We're going to have the actual pocket pussy and a pocket penis made of silicone with labels on it. So, because it's a pussy, or many other words, it's not a vagina. The vagina comes from the word sheath, which means to hold a sword. And so that's one part of it, right? And obviously the man's most excited part, but if you learn all the parts, you'll get access way more often. And so like actually having more sex in the palms of people is something, and dripping that across the United States is something that we really look forward to. So yeah, we're going to be a bit quite raunchy. Delightfully.
Amazing.
Thanks for the support.
Yeah, you're welcome. What you do is so cool. Well, I mean, you talked about this was my last point of curiosity, and then we can elegantly land this plane. The energetic consent, or the consent to deep energetic stuff.
Like in the shaman realm?
Yeah, some people might not have the language or the awareness to meaningfully understand what consent is in that realm. I've never tasted or touched this experience of bliss that you're giving me, speaking in my realm of transformation and coaching, right? Like, I don't know what you're offering me. So I can't really say yes or no. And me saying yes to it will forever transform my capacity to say yes or no. I don't know if that's similar to what you were pointing to earlier with the shaman, but
yeah, because when people go to these spaces, like in this, people go to visit that shaman space to step into the world with which they trust the shaman. And the shaman's role is not to energetically interject themselves into that person. It's literally to hold the space so that their energies can open and they can go back to their life and be open to whatever is supposed to be in their life. And that shaman was not intended to be in their life, and especially not in their fucking body. And shamans that position themselves in that way and then sell packages and have intentions of otherwise just because they feel an attraction to a woman is not okay. And I've dealt with 3 of them so far, and just one of them we had to shut their business down. Some of the others that they just needed to have a good learning, right? Maybe they had a mother or a sister where they learned some of the more challenging things that women do, and right, wrong, or indifferent. It happens where there's damages to men at young ages from women, and then sometimes this just shows up in this realm where someone may not understand what they're doing, and if they're made aware, then they can make changes to their position, and that happens. But at the same time, there's situations in which you might have put yourself in the position because you knew that you could, and you just choose your people that you think would better fit your I get to stay in silence victims. So it's dangerous. I mean, the only role of a shaman is to hold space to open for others, not to hold space to put yourself into others. And it's a pretty fucking clear black and white line. Shamans aren't confused about what they do. The confusion would just be like their intention, well, yeah, I was letting myself be present as they were having very deep, intimate thoughts, but I'm watching and I'm helping, and you're like, how are you helping? How are you helping by just watching when you're just supposed to be holding? How are you helping by being, here's their field and you're being on the other side of it, and this is their field, this is their space. They're at your ceremony, but they didn't say come get in my space. They said, hold the space for me. Don't be in it. And it's the energetic spiritual world is so fluid and so full of so many unknowns, and there's a lot of people that just want to show up to it and visit for a little bit, and they need those pros and those leaders in there to actually be leaders, right? It's in the business sense, it would be like if your manager went over and just did your worksheet for you or something like that, or did your meeting for you, right? Managers aren't doing that because they don't have time for that bullshit. They get no gain from it. But if you're hot, or if they get to see a pussy, or if they get some intimate feeling, energetic feeling, emotional thing that they don't get otherwise, then they're getting something fulfilled, right? This is why they would step into that realm. And it's yeah, it's a problem, but it's not the highest priority problem yet.
It's not the lowest hanging fruit problem to solve at scale.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If you start putting actual serial predatory rapists behind bars, that problem will start to solve itself.
Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for expressing all this magic and marvelous specificity and intelligence and heart. Where do people find you? How do they get more of you and what you're up to?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking great questions. So you can find us at havemore.space is our website. Our Instagram is havemore.sex. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can kind of find me on Instagram. It'd be better to find Have More Sex on Instagram. And then where were you? We're coming out with YouTube next, and we do have a podcast planned to come out towards the end of the year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please follow Stef Hammett.
Oh, go get the Consent Codes book.
Go get the book. It just came out.
It's on Amazon.
It's got a really beautiful cover. I know how much that means.
Thank you.
And feel free to like, share, and subscribe. This has been Make Love Easy.